Today I have a really exciting demo to go through because it's really a sneak peek of some upcoming functionality we have in the 9.1 release. And so what I'm going to show you today is the new Leostream integration with Nutanix Acropolis Hypervisor, AHV for those who know the acronyms. So what we did is we've added native support for Nutanix AHV using the Prism APIs, along with the help of the Nutanix team. We're in the process of getting Nutanix Ready certified with that integration. And what it allows you to do is connect Leostream to your Nutanix environment so you can do inventory, power control, provisioning, all the great things that you can do with all of the other platforms that we already integrate, such as all the different cloud environments and the virtualization environments, what have you. Now, the way that we've done our integration when it comes to provisioning is in two ways. You can either provision from images, basically created as OVA files. So you would create your master VM, install your applications, put the Leostream agent on there, and then clone it to an OVA. Or you can create a snapshot of it. So same thing, create your master VM, put your applications and your Leostream agent on there, and then just take a snapshot from the Prism element UI. So now once you have Nutanix wrapped into Leostream, that means all of the other functionality that you already have in your Leostream environment, the advanced authentication, including MFA, the really detailed access control rules, all the different display protocols that we support, it means that you can now leverage it with Nutanix. And we're seeing a lot of interest in this, particularly in media and entertainment and other industries that really rely on the high performance display protocols that we support so many of, such as the nice DCVs, the PC over IP, Mectine TGX, to name a few. So the API integration that we added, it is specifically for AHV, so Acropolis Hypervisor. Now you know that Nutanix, the management platform, can actually manage different types of virtualization hosts, such as vSphere. Not a problem. We already had support for vSphere. So if you have Nutanix happens to be running with a vSphere hosts underneath it, then you would just create two centers, one to manage the AHV, and then another one, which is a native VMware center, to manage vSphere. Same is true with OpenStack. We actually have one customer already who's running OpenStack on top of Nutanix. We can integrate with Nutanix and OpenStack and vSphere all side by side, so you really have one platform that manages everything. So let's take a look at it. Share my screen here. All right, so this is not Leostream, this is actually Nutanix. This is Prism Central that I've logged into, and I did this just so you can see the two VMs that I have set up in my kind of simple demo environment that I'm going to show you here. I do have the connection broker running inside of Nutanix. I just installed a CentOS 7 latest VM on Nutanix and then ran the easy curl command that Leostream gives you to pull down the installation from our repository, and it does all the install, has the internal database, so it's a really quick and easy proof of concept installation for Leostream. I then created my master VM here. This happens to be a Windows machine, installed all the necessary drivers to get the networking working, do have the Leostream agent on there, as well as the NGT, the Nutanix guest tools are installed on there as well. Once I did that, I actually, from this particular VM, I created both an OVA and a snapshot. So if I look at it here, you'll see that it does have one snapshot available, and I'll show you how to provision off of that, and also the OVAs. So, okay, with no more further ado, let's go back to our VM list. Now this is the Leostream connection broker, and I'm going to log in as the main administrator here. First thing you're going to notice is this page looks very different from any other demo that we have recorded to date. This is the new dashboard that's coming down the pike in the 9.1 release slated for later this year. It's a great way to get kind of snapshots of how many users and how many desktops are you managing, what's going on with the different desktops in your pools as far as power states and assignment states and whatnot. So we're really looking forward to releasing that alongside the Nutanix support. The Nutanix support specifically, to integrate those two platforms, you're going to come here to the setup section. Now, I'm not going to step through this entire interface. I'm going to give you some highlights on just the Nutanix integration, and you can reference some other videos if you want to learn more about plans and policies and whatnot, as well as authentication. We're going to skip over that and go straight to centers. A center in Leostream is any external system that we integrate via the APIs that system provides. So here you see I have my Nutanix AHV center set up here. And essentially what this is we utilize both Prism Element and Prism Central APIs, V2 and V3, to do the different types of functionality and support the different features that are in Leostream. So anywhere from inventory to provisioning requires different APIs in these different Prism systems. And then what you give us is the login for a user in both of those systems who has the necessary privileges to execute the APIs that we need. Once you create that center, and that's really all there is to it, Leostream reaches out to your Nutanix environment and inventories everything that is currently hosted in AHV specifically behind those element and central interfaces. So if I look just to show you all of our VMs, here are all the Leostream VMs that I have. The desktops page is a great place to really get a snapshot of what's going on with all of the different virtual machines and physical machines or cloud hosted machines in your environment. So I can see the power state. I can actually come up here and power control them if I want to. Ultimately, I'll see which user is assigned to the machine, see the IP addresses. I'm going to focus just on my pool here. So the virtual machines will show up here on the desktops page. And then the OVAs that you have to provision off of, those show up here on the images. We don't list all of the snapshots because typically people may have a good number of snapshots. So we just list the OVAs here on the images page, and the snapshots show up in the pool. I'll show you that here in a second. So those are the desktops and the images that get inventoried out after you create the center. Now, as I mentioned, if you are using either Nutanix on top of both VMware and AVH, you can just simply create a VMware center in here alongside the AVH center, manage them side by side. If you have a hybrid environment with cloud, physical workstations, just create the appropriate centers, and then the desktops and images page shows you everything and gives your IT staff one place they can go to manage it all. All right, so that hooks us up to Nutanix. Then I'm going to go over here and show you pools so we can talk about provisioning. Now, we do have a number of customers who run in a persistent kind of model where they provision all their machines inside of Nutanix on top of AHV, and then the machines are just persistent, that they never get deleted. Leostream, in those cases, manages the assignment to a pool of these shared resources in AHV. If you do want to model a non-persistent workflow, well, you do that through these pools as well. So if I look, oops, I'm still in my centers. If I look here in the pools, now you see one thing that's unique about Leostream is these pools can be nested, and really that's a great organizational for you as an IT person to be able to group desktops based on ways it's going to make you easier for you to manage. So I've created one pool, which is everything inside of this particular Nutanix cluster. And then I broke it down further into everything that's used by Leostream, and then even further into the machines that are just mine. So here it's a subset of Leostream pools. I'm looking for machines that contain my initials. That just happens to be how I've configured this pool. Using the desktop name is a convenient and really good way to create pools if you're provisioning, because it guarantees the desktop you provision will end up in the pool because you set the name during the provisioning parameters. So before I talk about provisioning, I am going to point out this track historical pool assignments and connections. If you're creating pools and you want them to show up on that fancy dashboard you saw, just make sure that box is checked. That's where we're getting the data from so that we can sample what's going on in your pools. Provisioning then is enabled down here in the provisioning section. So what I've said is I've enabled provisioning, and then I use the stop and the start thresholds to kind of size the pool and allow it to grow a certain amount over time as users start logging in. So the way these numbers read, they actually map to the pool size information that you see here. And so I can start provisioning when there are fewer than 2 assigned desktops. Well, here I have 2 in the pool, 2 are available for assignment. So that means I've already got 2, nothing will be provisioned off if I was to save this pool. Stop provisioning then is a threshold on the total. So right now I have 2, so it would provision off 1. So there's a number of ways you can use these limits based on kind of what your use cases are. It could be that you're just building out a greenfield Nutanix environment. You built your first master image, and now you just want to provision a whole bunch of static desktops, persistent desktops, I should say. You can just come in here and type in how many you want, and then when you save the form, it'll provision them away. You can also do things like say, no, really what I want is a nominal 0 number of desktops in this pool, and instead change the limits based on time of day. Maybe you're providing lab access to different students or whatnot. You can do that by using the time of day provisioning threshold. Or in my case, I'm just saying I can put 2 here and 10 here. Make sure there's a couple ready for when people start coming in, but then as users get assigned to those machines, spin up another one. So it's kind of just ahead of time provisioning in this case, but capped because I don't want to over provision and over allocate. So the provisioning limits give you a lot of flexibility in kind of sizing the pool and telling us when to provision. The provisioning parameters then just tell us how. How do we provision these machines? So first I say I'm provisioning into my AHV center here. I set the name. So this is where I mentioned, if you pool by desktop name, you can control it. So just match this up to the text that you put in your pool attributes. And then when we spin up the machines, they'll automatically fall into the pool. Display name is optional. It gives you a way to, if you have some sort of obscure naming scheme that you want to use for your virtual machine names, but you want to display something nice to the user, you can have a display name that's a little more user-friendly there. And then in the provisioning methods, you indicate if it's an OVA, which right now we're calling templates. This wording is still under construction. So either from an OVA or from a snapshot. So you're going to take either clone either the VM from a snapshot or an OVA. Once you select snapshot, here's where you see all the different snapshots that are available in your environment. So I've selected my snapshot there. If you do want to model an unpersistent, wow, I couldn't do that, model, then what you want to do is select the deletable flag. This gives the broker permission to terminate the machine after the user is done using it. If you want to pre-populate the pool with a number of persistent machines, then you just turn off that flag. And then even if you tell the broker to delete the machine, it won't because it realizes it doesn't have the rights. So I'm going to cancel out of this so I don't save my changes. And the default was so that it will provision when the next user is applied. Now the rest of it, the broker, I just set up, I'm just going to use the defaults. I'm going to connect for this demo just using simple RDP. As I mentioned, you can use protocol plans to connect using any number of high performance or commodity display protocols. You have all the power control that you could possibly want with Nutanix. You can do shutdowns, reboots, start, because we'll start through the API, so it doesn't matter if the agent's not running. And then the release plans, again, all the functionality on the Nutanix API, on the Nutanix VMs are available through the API. We can monitor idle time, so we can boot users out, make the machine available for the next user, and what have you. So to show a little bit of how the provisioning works, here I'm going to log in as an end user who's offered the machine that is hosted currently in AHV, and I'm going to go connect. As I mentioned, I'm just launching a very simple RDP connection here. So it downloaded the RDP file. Because it does do a file download, we don't embed the password in there, so the user has to type it again. Let me just do that really quick. You don't want to download a plain password. Let's go ahead and connect because I don't have certificates on my desktop. So that's just an RDP connection. That's not particularly exciting. But here, what's exciting on the broker log page is you see everything that's going on in the background. So you see the user logging in, the resources that she was offered based on the policy she was assigned. As soon as she requested a connection to the machine got assigned to her. That, if you remember that pool size information, took one of those available desktops and moved it into the assigned column. So now my available was below my threshold. So that triggered the provisioning. And the provisioning in Nutanix, particularly with these snapshots, very fast. So the provisioning is going on here. You can see it's already completed. If I go back over here, see if I've timed out or if it's still, nope, it timed out on me. I log back in and go to the VM page. You can see the VM creating in here. And let me just filter this real quick so you see just my machines here. Oh, there you see the machine being created in there. It's still in the process of being created, so it doesn't have an IP address, but it'll pick up an IP address. All that's being handled by Nutanix. And then once it has that, the agent starts and registers with the broker, and you'll see the machine being created in here. So it's still in the starting phase. Once it gets there, we'll get the IP address and the agent registration. The agent registration is very important. We can get information about kind of the VM container from Nutanix. We get its MAC address, we know its power state, but to get information about the internals of the machine, its host name, the display protocols that are currently running on it, its operating system. This is the information that comes from the Leostream agent after it starts up and registers with the broker. So very important to have that on there. So with that, I think I will wrap up. We are, as I mentioned, this is coming up in the next release. If you want to give it a try, you can try it now. We have a beta that's available, or if you just want to talk to someone in sales about other functionality that you saw in this demo or are curious about, you can feel free to contact us at sales@leostream.com. Thanks.